Alrighty, how's it going, everybody? Thanks for coming to my SPED talk. So today we are going to go over the science of sound, which has largely been what my senior project has been about. So to start, here's the thing. Here are the things that I'd like to cover: psychoacoustics versus acoustics, math and sound, and common sound effects, and what they mean. So acoustics is the study of sound, right? In an audio engineering context, acoustics is about the spacing. Um, so if something has really good acoustics, it has really good spacing. It sounds like it's in a real room, right? Psychoacoustics is um, more about how we perceive acoustics. So, for example, we naturally hear at higher volumes, more high pitched frequencies. Another great example of this is 3D sound. So, we humans, we hear in 3D sound. We hear when something is in front of us, when something is behind us, when something is left or right um, of us. That is an illusion, actually, in an audio engineering context. It's yeah, that's kind of the best way to say it. So here's math and sound. So like I said, we hear sound in kind of a logarithmic form, not a linear form. So if you can kind of draw that out in your head, um, do your best there, right? So here's the formula for sound level for how we hear it. So it's a logarithmic equation. The I is intensity watts per square meter, and the zero I is the lower threshold of human hearing. Right. So that's what that formula looks like. So here's the Fletcher-Munson curve. And this kind of goes over both of the previous things that I mentioned. Um, that we hear higher pitched sounds louder than we do lower pitch sounds, and that we hear it in a logarithmic way. So if you can kind of see here, right, when we're at the lower levels, it kind of dips, right? It doesn't go down straight down, it curves down. Pretty interesting, right? Um, and when we start getting to these higher levels, these higher frequencies, around 60 kilohertz to about 80 kilohertz, right? We it we jump, right? It dips right here, and then we jump up in those higher frequency ranges, and so that's us hearing it louder, right? So let's talk about octaves. So octaves are one octave is 8 notes on the piano, right? That's kind of how you like measure. I guess I want to say distance because when I sit down and look at it, I look between octaves, right? Um, and I guess it also counts too for musical distances. Everything I think of at least is kind of relative to an octave for me. So we have middle C here, which is at 261.63 hertz. That is middle C, right? That's the middlemost note on the piano. C5, an octave above, is 523.25 hertz. Now, if you kind of take a look at it and you do a little bit of math in your head, you'll notice that it's perfect. It's almost a perfect double of C5 is almost a perfect double of C4. So if you had to take a gander, what would you think C3 is? I'll let you think about that for a second. So C3 is 130.81 hertz, right? So it's a perfect half. So pretty awesome thing about octaves there. So we're gonna go into some of the common effects right now. I did a little bit of a word association game with these. So when I think of reverb or reverberations, I think of spacing. So sound bounces. Obviously, that depends on the material in the room, but when you speak in a room, you have reverberations. It's the sound bouncing off of the walls, right? So when I think of reverb, I think of spacing. Now, when I think of delay, I think of timing. It's almost delay is kind of like a rhythmic reverberation, but it's way after reverb. Reverb is within the first couple milliseconds. Delay is way later. Reverb is like yelling down a hall. Delay is like yelling out into a mountainside, right? Um, chorus is the voicings. So when you have a chorus, it's that same sound, but you have different voices of that sound. So it makes it sound more full or more present. Um, and then distortion is kind of the attitude or the character of the sound, right? So when you have like a sine wave, imagine just taking that perfect line and just scrunching it up and pulling it out. That's what distortion does to a sound wave. And so yeah, so these are some of the common effects. And I will. That's kind of all I have. That's all the time I have. Please feel free to ask me questions down below. Thank you.